From what we learned in asking the right questions in chapter 1, we essentially learned about what critical thinking is, and it's essentially the thought process or the evaluation of the information that we take in. We use that information to essentially make our own thoughts and our opinions, and we'll ask more critical questions about the kind of information, on whether we should trust it or what we can understand about it, and use that to make our own decision, our own solution in a way. And in order to understand what the importance behind critical thinking and asking the kind of questions that we use to become a better critical thinker, is that first we have to understand the kind of thinking styles in which we utilize, which there's two. There's the sponge method and the panning for gold method. And essentially sponging is pretty much you're taking in the information without fully understanding it. You're just more copying down what you're being told, the information you're being given. You're not fully understanding the concept behind it. While as you're as you're penning up for gold, you're asking yourself questions such as, what is it part of my argument that I can improve? What is it that I might be wrong about? You have to consider as a critical thinker, what is it that I could possibly be wrong about in terms of what I'm arguing about, towards what I believe and what my values hold to that extent, and what define what values is in terms of what was given to the chapter. And it's essentially the kind of a non-spoken rule. It's essentially how we decide to judge the humanity of other people, essentially how we decide to observe who they are as a person, and we use those values as almost our own filter to determine who we surround ourselves with. And the more we surround ourselves with people that are different than us, the more likely we are to develop a greater set of critical thinking skills. And that's essentially what can help avoid any kind of bias that comes with holding the kinds of values that we do currently now. And because we hold those values valuable to ourselves, it's essentially where we decide to conform to other people's opinions, to where we can't, or if you decide to conform, you decide to groupthink. That's essentially the phrase, the action of conforming within one group. You're avoiding critical thinking or because of the fear that you will be judged for being different, or for having your own opinion. You decide to conform without the rest of other people's decisions, their opinions. And that's essentially what critical thinking helps defend from, pretty much. That's our weapon, our tool to avoid groupthink, or rather to avoid sponging into information, whether it's false or whether it's opinionated. We still need to decide for ourselves, make our own solutions as to what we think about certain topics. What we think, just how we think, is already enough. And ultimately, critical thinking is what plays into hands of how we decide to observe the kind of fallacies, what we believe in, on whether we decide to trust experts. I mean, you can trust experts, but the thing is, you can't really take in everything that they say and just take it off as your own. You have to fully put thought into what you learn and make your own decision based off of that, and make your own opinion. Decide for yourselves on what you essentially truly believe in. And that's essentially what asking the right questions chapter 1 was more about. Thank you.